All right, moving on to our action items. Very exciting one for number one, which would be a resolution to renew our current operating referendum. Mrs. Smith and Mr. Kaiser.
I think we're going to start out with Dr. Taylor introducing some things, and then we'll take over from there.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Smith. Good evening again, board. Tonight, we will be proposing a resolution for renewal of our current operating referendum. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for that. As you know, we've been analyzing this throughout the course of this school year, looking at budget projections and forecasting and trying to determine what is going to be in the best interest to sustain the progress that we've made in this district. We gave you a referendum update last board meeting, and we shared our proposal for what we believe is best. We shared that proposal with the community as well, and we want to reiterate that this proposal is not something that we take lightly. We know that anytime we ask our community for support like this, it is a big ask. And so we have done our due diligence in preparing and analyzing and looking at all the different angles and looking at the numbers, but it is very challenging to budget 8 years out. And so we have been looking at the years past and continue to look at what lies ahead. And so we want to make sure that we, above all, are able to sustain the funding for what we believe we're going to need for the next 8 years, because we also believe that that funding equates to sustaining our progress for Washington Township schools. So we do encourage all families and community members to review the facts and stay informed as additional information becomes available. Tonight, we are going to share some of those resources and information throughout this presentation before we ask for your approval. Because some of the resources will include frequently asked questions, because we do believe that there's a lot of myths versus facts out there and some misunderstandings regarding referendum and referendum history in Washington Township schools and particularly. And so that's available on our district website. We just built this new robust website, which we believe answers every question. And so very boldly at the top, you will see that this is about sticking to our commitments and seeing results. And as you scroll down from that, which you'll see a little video from me talking a little bit more about the operating referendum renewal, but you'll see this is not about anything new. This is not about new buildings. This is about sustaining the staff who are doing the great work, moving the needle and making the difference for our students. That's all this is. At the same rate. And we do know that there will be a lot of districts who will be seeking an operating referendum, and most of those districts will be asking for more. And so we're very fortunate in Washington Township that we believe we can get by with that same rate, even though we know that that same rate will generate less dollars for the district. We also understand that that will have a savings to the majority of our property tax owners as well, because of the impact from SEA 1. And so pending your approval tonight, we will be updating our community again on the outcome of this vote this evening, but we'll also share more about this website and start educating our community on an ongoing basis about why we need their support and continued support, as we've been so blessed to have in the years past. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Smith, who's going to get a little more granular. And then Dr. Kaiser and Mr. Long with Ice Miller is our legal counsel, who's here to help answer questions at the conclusion as well. So thank you for being here, Mr. Long. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Taylor, members of the board, community. As Dr. Taylor indicated, we have built this robust website to be transparent, a regular financial hub. So you'll see here as we go back down through, he did the introduction, but then we want to take you to a couple of our different areas where we were trying to explain the why and give more details for the average person that doesn't live in this day to day. So here you'll see under Project Our Project Progress, school funding. When you open this up, you'll see all the different buckets of our school funding. our education fund, and it states, how that's divided up here at Washington Township. Then you'll see our operations fund, which we receive the money there for local property taxes and how that budget is divided. Then you see our operating referendum fund that we're talking about this evening for the renewal. And you'll see how we have divided that out over the last 6 years. And then we also have what's called a debt service fund. So it gives information on that we pay for long-term building and facilities updates through that debt service fund. We also have federal funding, but however, the federal funding has restrictions for each type of federal funding. So it goes into detail about the federal funding. And then the next section is financial reports and budgets. So we will keep adding to this throughout the year and continue to do so. It shows our 2026 budget order that lets us know the tax rates, the property tax levies, all those different types of things, our budgets. And then we also have our quarterly board reports that we'll keep on listing here for the public to see those board reports that go to our board and presented to them and approved at board meetings. Then you go down through and it shows you the history of Indiana school funding reform. And each one of these, if you hover over them, gives you information more in detail on the reform throughout the years, all the way to today. Then we move down into SEA 1, and you'll see here where we have some accordion information on the bottom, on the left-hand side here, where you can expand each, and it explains what it says under each one of these. So for instance, if I expand all, it gives you that information on what changed, why this matters, impact on Washington Township, the big picture. So you'll see that throughout this website, explaining in more detail for our community. Then at each one of them, you'll see where at the very bottom, you can go to the next section. We'll go to the section that talks about referendum. We heard that from the gentleman earlier, talking about what is a referendum in school, the different types of referendums that schools can ask for. There are 3 main types: operating referendum for day-to-day. It shows all this in detail when you expand those accordions. We have capital construction referendum that we've done in the past here at Washington Township that we are not going out for one of those right now. We're going out for our regular operating referendum renewal. And then also some districts have what's called a safety referendum that are aimed directly toward certain safety features throughout the district. And then here we are for understanding our referendums here at Washington Township. And it talks about, and it shows the history, how in 2009, it was an operating referendum. In 2016 and 2020, we had a capital referendums. And then also in 16 and 2020, operating referendum. So we have that information there. On the right is a presentation that we have done through our board meetings to show different information and how those buckets drill down for what we're spending our referendums under, in what areas, and also the capital improvements that we made throughout the district. So people can click on that also. Then we'll move on to the 2026 renewal page. This is a lot of information, wondering, okay, why are we going out for a renewal in 2026 versus waiting until 2028? And all this information you'll see on this page, also with the accordion information on the left. And then you'll see just general information as you're going down. It also goes into, the cost increases. All of us know, not just here at Washington Township, within our district, we know this in our own homes, how costs have risen. And then we go into, okay, what would happen if this referendum is not renewed, and the reductions that would need to take place with that. We have over 300 staff that are paid out of our referendum. And then, of course, we have here that goes into the human impact that I just talked about, our student achievement that has risen, and then also how our property values have increased in our district. Then we move on to our points of pride. Some of you may or may not have seen this flyer throughout the district. And it talks about everything that we've done in our district to date, about our students, our graduation rates, and other information on there for some reading. Moving on to the last main section here is understanding your tax bill. We wanted people to be able to dissect, decode, understand what a regular property tax bill is without being a CFO like myself. So we wanted to be able to dub it down so that people would understand what their tax bill means. So on the right-hand side, we have a summary of that, of the different aspects of your property tax bill and how those credits and calculations apply. And then on the left-hand side, when we expand all these, it goes into more granular detail of, okay, what is a net assessed value? I don't even know what assessed value is. Gross, net, what does all that mean? What are the credits that I see on my tax bill? What are those regulations? Where does all the information and all my money go when I pay my tax bill? And we have a list there. It's just not schools. It's all the other governments that we have throughout our county. And then last but not least, under this number 4, we actually have where you click on the black sections and it shows an actual tax bill. And then on the one right below that is actually a presentation that walks you through the whole thing, unlike the summary that you have on the right. Then what we have here, Dr. Taylor was talking about this, we have the impact of what this renewal would be for the homeowners. And as you can see here, the majority of the homeowners, even with this renewal at the same rate, we're receiving less dollars, but the majority of the taxpayers will pay less with their property tax with this renewal at the same rate. We also included a tax estimator, and just wanted to kind of show you this, that the person, if they know their approximate value of their house, I'll use that as an example. Say mine is $250,000. You type 250 in there, you hit calculate, and it gives you the estimate of what you would pay on your property taxes. So that is for all the homeowners to utilize to see what their tax bill would be like with this renewal. Last but not least, I want to go back to the front page and I want to show you what Dr. Taylor was talking about, how we even have a section in here underneath those, myth versus facts. In this, we like to, we have a statement, and then we want to give the factual information that are common misconceptions that are out there. So those are for reading pleasure also, each one of those. Schools are fully funded by the state already, as an example. Then it goes down to say, no, it's not. This is how it's funded. So the public can look at those. Also with the frequent asked questions section. So there's a lot of that detail also in the FAQ section. And last but not least, before I turn it over to Dr. Kaiser, we want people to stay informed. We have this new section here on the website where it talks about newsletters, attending board meetings, a place where you can email your questions directly, a place to register to vote. Those different aspects to be all inclusive for the person that wants to know about our operating referendum renewal. And that is a general overview. I know that was a fast overview, but it's there for the public to be able to utilize, and we will keep on adding information as it progresses throughout this year. And next, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Kaiser to summarize some more information for you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith and board. Before the presentation of the resolution, I just wanted to highlight a new legally required aspect of the resolution that has not been required in the past. The board will notice an addendum to the resolution that includes spending plans for a total of 15 charter schools. Based on a recent change to Indiana law, newly proposed school referenda, whether they are a new referendum or a renewal, must share any funds approved by the public with charter schools. These can be charter schools inside the township or outside the township. The requirement for a charter school to participate is that they have a single student who legally resides in Washington Township enrolled in their schools. Within your documents this evening, you will see that we estimate the impact of this for the first year of a renewed referendum is roughly $360,000 in 2027 that would be given to charter schools rather than to students enrolled in Washington Township, should the current referendum be successfully renewed. Additionally, I did want to remind the board of the limited ability that you or the district I just wanted to remind the board of the limited ability you or the district has to determine how the referendum renewal question will be worded on the ballot. I know that as I read the question, there may be some who would like to see it phrased a bit more directly or with fewer words. However, I just wanted to remind the public and the board that the format of the question is a function of Indiana law, and the final question language is provided to us by the Department of Local Government Finance. We are then required to include that language in the resolution and request that it is placed on the ballot using the wording that and format that we have been given. I think that's me. With that, I am happy to share the resolution before the board this evening. Whereas Indiana Code 20-46-1 as amended permits a public school corporation to adopt a resolution to place a referendum on the ballot if the governing body of the school corporation determines that the school corporation cannot, in a calendar year, carry out its public educational duty unless it imposes a referendum tax levy under the act. And whereas pursuant to the act, the voters of Washington Township approved a referendum tax levy in 2020 with a maximum tax rate of 25 cents for 8 years. And whereas the administration and the board of school trustees of the school corporation have been investigating the need for a potential renewal of its 2020 referendum in order to fund essential educational and operational expenses of the school corporation. And whereas the school board of trustees of the school corporation, being the governing body of the school corporation, has determined that based on current revenue calculations for the years 2027 through and including 2034, the school corporation will not be able to carry out its public educational duty unless it continues to annually impose a referendum tax levy in accordance with the act. And whereas pursuant to the act, a copy of a proposed revenue spending plan was presented to the board, which is attached to this resolution as Exhibit A1, the revenue spending plan. Whereas based on the foregoing, the board now desires to adopt a resolution to place a referendum on the November 3rd, 2026 ballot under the act in order to renew the existing 2020 referendum. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this board hereby determines that based on current revenue calculations for the years 2027 through and including 24, the school corporation will not be able to carry out its public educational duty unless it continues to impose a maximum annual referendum property tax rate of 25 cents and imposes a maximum annual referendum property levy of $24 million starting in 2027 through and including 2034. Be it further resolved that the school corporation has substantially complied with the procedures required by Indiana Code 20-46-1 through 8 regarding the voluntary participation of charter schools in the referendum tax levy. Certain charter schools timely responded in writing with a desire to participate. Therefore, the school corporation plans to distribute revenue from the referendum tax levy deposited with the school corporation to certain charter schools. The individual revenue spending plans of such charter schools are hereby incorporated by reference and are included in Exhibit A2 attached hereto and made a part hereof. Be it further resolved that there shall be placed on a ballot to be considered in a referendum of the registered voters residing in the boundaries of the school corporation at an election to be held on November 3rd, 2026, a question in substantially the following format, subject to completion and determination of certain information by the Marion County Auditor as required by law and subject to approval by the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance. Question reads, shall MSD of Washington Township continue to increase property taxes paid to the school corporation for no more than 8 years for the purpose of repealing the existing referendum tax rate and replacing the existing referendum tax rate with a new rate that will provide funding for retaining teachers and staff, for improved student safety, increased student support services, as well as expanded academic programming in alignment with the new diploma requirements by imposing a property tax rate that does not exceed 25 cents and results in a maximum annual amount that does not exceed $24 million. If this operating referendum public question is not approved by the voters for a median residence of $300,000, the property's annual property tax bill would decrease by $351 a year. If this operating referendum public question is approved by the voters, it would be a renewal of the most recent operating referendum public question passed in 2020 with a property tax rate of 25 cents. Be it further resolved that the superintendent, assistant superintendent of operational services, or chief financial officer, or the president or secretary of the board be and hereby is authorized to certify a copy of this resolution to the DLGF in accordance with the act. Be it further resolved that the revenue spending plan presented at this meeting and attached hereto as Exhibit A1 is hereby approved and adopted. Further, the board finds that such a plan may be amended and supplemented each year as part of the school corporation's annual budget process as permitted by Indiana Code 20-46-18G and all other applicable laws. Be it further resolved that any officer of the board and the administration each hereby is authorized, empowered, and directed on behalf of the school corporation to take any and all action as such person deems necessary or desirable to effectuate the foregoing resolutions, including but not limited to requesting the Marion County Auditor determine certain information for the aforementioned form of the public question as required by the Act, and making any required revisions to the aforementioned form of the public question or a replacement of such question in its entirety in order to receive approval from the DLGF. Further, that all such actions heretofore made or taken by the board or the administration be and hereby are ratified and approved. This concludes my presentation of the resolution. Mrs. Smith and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board, any questions? Mr.
Just
Thompson.
one. I know that it's in the information on the website, but can you kind of outline, like, if the operating referendum does not pass, what's at stake?
So as we shared, and the information in detail is there, this is a referendum about positions and people in our district. So if the operating referendum were to not be renewed, we would have to make very serious decisions about what staffing levels we could continue to afford to have in the district. It would result in, we would be reducing our staff.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Turner?
I'm sorry, I did not see this before this meeting, and it may be answered somewhere and I don't know it, so excuse me. When you look at the charter school disbursement, it has a different max levy. Is that purposely?
So, the maximum levy presented in the question, Mr. Turner, that 25-cent tax rate, we certainly control. The maximum levy is driven by assessed valuation, and that maximum is for the 8 years of the question. And so a potential max levy based on 8 years, the charter schools are the 2027 estimation of what we think that levy might be.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion?
Move that we approve the resolution to renew our current operating referendum as presented by Mrs. Smith and Dr. Kaiser.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Can I make a comment at this point?
Yes.
And Dr. Taylor mentioned it, I'm sure the rest of the board would think the same thing. These decisions, especially around referendum, are never easy, and it's not easy to ask, folks to pay more for their property taxes, to help support the schools. Lot of our residents don't have kids in our schools, and why would I do it? So I really appreciate the website and all the details that are there can help folks like Mr. Phillips when he's talking to people to direct them to that particular site. So I just want to say thank you for doing it that way. It's never an easy decision for us to, as a board, to make the call on doing this. But it's one of those things where our hand has been forced based on some things that happened downtown. So appreciate all your work on that.
Thank you. And I will just say as a comment before we vote, and I'll keep saying it, I will be voting for this based on the fact that this resolution is keeping the same tax rate. This is a renewal of the existing tax rate, and it's not an increase or a new ask. And I'll keep repeating that over and over. And it's for people, not for Bill. Anything else? I will go ahead and let's see, it was moved and seconded already. So I will call the vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That resolution is approved 5-0. Thank you.